I'm Jeffrey Lessel. You can call me Geo. I am the author of Phoenix in Action, and I'm super excited that you are here with me today. We are taking over the Manning live stream Twitch channel, which is pretty fun. We're going to be going over some things today with the Elixir programming language and Phoenix, the Phoenix web framework. And to be honest, I'm kind of excited about this. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have in terms of questions for me. We're going to try to do this somewhat interactively. So if you have questions, please let me know what they are. And we'll go from there, which is going to be pretty awesome. The first thing I want to tell you about is my information, I guess. This is who I am. I'm Geo. I'm Jeffrey Lessel. And you can find me at these different locations online. I'm on Twitter at GeoLessel. I am on GitHub at GeoLessel. I blog at jeffreylessel.com. And I have a YouTube channel, which I've been doing some live streaming on recently and some live coding. Typically more in the Lisp language for Emacs, just configuring my Emacs programming or Emacs environment to get it exactly how I want. But I'm considering doing some things with Elixir on there too soon. So that'll be fun. Now, I also want to let you know that if you have not picked up a copy of my book yet, then there is a code TWITLESS40, and that gets you 40% off everything at manning.com, which is pretty cool. If you go to phoenixinaction.com, it'll take you straight to the website where you can purchase it. So let me show you. Like if I just go to phoenixinaction.com, it'll take you right to the page. And it tacks on a little thing that gives me just a little bit extra money because I sent you there, which would be super nice. So add that to your cart, use the code TWITLESS40 and get 40% off. And thank you. That's kind of a thank you for coming and joining us today. I need to bring up the chat here because I cannot see it. So let me bring that up. I'm hoping that it'll be easy to do. I've done this on YouTube quite a bit, but not a whole lot on Twitch. So I apologize if I am not the Twitch king, which, you know, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. All right. So what are we going to do today? We are going to be building a real-time chat application with Elixir and Phoenix. And particularly with a module in Phoenix called Live View, which is really cool. It allows, like Phoenix on its own was really good for real-time communication between the client and the server. Well, and Elixir itself was built for that on top of Erlang. So it's on its own really good for that. But then Phoenix Live View takes that and takes it to the next level, which is really cool. So we're going to be utilizing that to create some really cool stuff. Let me bring up, make sure you can see my my editor there. Yeah, here's our editor. So we're going to be going from, I've got nothing in terms of code installed yet. I have kind of gone through this a little bit on my own just to see what it would take, see if we could do it within an hour. It'll probably take a little more than an hour, but hopefully you'll stick around and we can get it done together. And by the way, if you want to, I can't see the chat now. So if you want to say hi or ask any questions, just go ahead and put that in the chat. I'll get to those when I see them come up, if I'm not so laser focused on getting this code in. So the first thing we need to do is we need to start a new Elixir application. So if you guys have not done this before, it's super easy. And the cool thing about Elixir is it provides some really good help, even in the command line. So if I just do like mix Phoenix new, it'll print out a whole bunch of information about the options that we have, how to configure the application in terms of the generator. So in this case, you know, this command creates a new Phoenix project and expects the path of the project as an argument. A project with a given path will be created, and the application name and module name will be retrieved from the path unless module or app is given. And that way we can kind of specify exactly what we want things to be named. It also has some options. So --live, which includes the Phoenix Live View module to make it easier than ever to build interactive real-time applications. A little plug in there for Phoenix Live View in the help, which is pretty fun. Umbrella, which creates an umbrella application so you can kind of keep your business logic and your web interface for that separate, and maybe even include other interfaces in there as well. and then the name of the OTP application and the module, the base module, and then what kind of database you're going to use. I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple of these. First of all, this -- live. We are going to be creating a Phoenix Live View application. So we'll go ahead and pass this -- live. It does a few things for us that makes things quite a bit easier when we're creating the application. So that's nice. The other thing we're going to be doing is we are going to be doing no database. So the idea behind the chat application is it's going to be basically zero configuration chat for the end user. So you don't log in, you don't even have to like manually create a room to chat in. You basically just go to a URL and start chatting. Now there's some downsides to that. One is your username will be generated automatically and randomly, so you won't be able to choose that. But you know, if you wanted to take this idea and run with it in a different direction, you could of course allow account creations. Reserve usernames for certain individuals, that kind of thing, certain accounts. But today we're just going to do random usernames and go from there. So no database though. No Webpack. So that basically just says, you know, I'm not going to be doing this with some JavaScript, or if I am, I need to manually handle it myself, like maybe with Brunch or some other packaging asset building management system, whatever. No Ecto. So that's what we're going to be doing. We don't want to generate Ecto files. And Ecto is a really good package to help you manage your database connections. And since we're going to have no database, we're going to say no Ecto, and that's going to take care of the no database stuff that we were talking about. No HTML, do not generate HTML views. We do want HTML stuff. Get text, dashboard. I'll show you a little bit about Phoenix Live Dashboard, possibly once we get into it. It's pretty cool, but we do want dashboard. That's kind of fun, and it doesn't really, there's no benefit to not including it for us. Binary ID, that's primary key for Ecto types. We're not going to be using Ecto, so not a big deal. And then verbose. And then some examples down here, just a little more text, but let's get into it. So we want to do mix Phoenix new. We're going to do live, and we're going to do no Ecto. And let's call our application chat. Super creative. I know I came up with that on my own. I put a poll out. I'm just kidding. Let's just name it chat. Oh, no echo. So it's not echo friendly, but we do want no Ecto. So it created all that from our generator, and we told it to go ahead and install and fetch the dependencies. So it's going to do that. And while it's doing that, well, let's just let that finish because it's not going to take long. And the next thing we're going to do is in the command line as well. So let's talk about how we're going to generate. I mentioned that we're going to be generating the chat rooms names dynamically, or the usernames dynamically, and you can essentially create a chat room on the fly. And one of the things we're going to be able, or one of the ways we're going to be able to do that is by using a package called Monomic Slugs. Man, that word is so hard to say for me. But we're going to be using that to generate some random slug information, some random URLs. So that'll be nice to have. From there, man, this is taking a little longer than I was expecting, which is unfortunate. But I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and look at Monomic Slugs. So let's go to GitHub. Over here, GitHub. And there's a cool website called Awesome Elixir that I go to a lot to check out new packages, or if I'm looking for something that that does a specific thing, I can go here and find that. So this is Monomic Slugs. Well, let's search for that. Monomic Slugs, a memorable mnemonic slug generator in Elixir. So if we look in there, it'll give us a little bit of information about how to use it and what it is. So essentially, you can tell it how many slugs you want. And it'll generate a string with that many of those slugs in there, which is pretty cool. And that's how we're going to be generating our random usernames. We're also going to be allow the user to, if they can't think of their own chat room name, we'll allow them just to create a random room, and that will be handled. The random room name will be handled by this package as well. I think I can, like, the stream, my view of the stream keeps pausing. I hope it's not messing up for you. So I paused it on Twitch for me. I'm hoping that the chat still streams through so I can see your questions or comments as they come in, and we'll go from there. So Let's check our status of our install, and it's still going. That is unfortunate. Let's go ahead and cancel that for now. And let's go into our chat directory, and let's go and start up a server and see what that looks like. So we have done nothing in terms of configuration of the server. Let's see if it actually has installed the assets, and for some reason it was just hanging. Okay, so now it's going to compile the Elixir. And if you didn't know, Elixir is a compiled language, which makes it fast. It compiles down to the Beam VM bytecode, and essentially it goes through Erlang as well, and Erlang is a really cool language. All right, Cowlib. Again, this is taking a long time. Let me check to see what is eating up all my processing power, and I'll be right back. Okay, back. Sorry about that delay. I have checked, and it looks like it was potentially the my backup software. This stream is also being recorded to disk, so the backup was just eating up the processing power. All right, so let's go to our local host and see what we have here. So localhost 4000, and we have Phoenix. It is live. It is usable. We can do things in it, which is cool. So it's got this live dashboard thing. In there, it shows you some stats about your running application, including like uptime and your output, your input, ports, processes, all this real-time information that you can get about your application, which is pretty neat. But we're not going to spend a whole lot of time in there. We're going to spend most of our time out here. All right. So within here, this is essentially what the generator produces for us in terms of HTML. We don't want most of this. We want to really get rid of it. So let's just strip all that out and go from there. So let me open up the application here. So it's going to be in lib, chat web. And from in there, it's going to be under templates, and then layout, and then root is going to be one of them. This is where the navigation, like the header stuff is. Let me turn off flight check mode and format all buffer mode. So within here, we can remove this header, and we can just say, I don't know, H1 Phoenix in action chat. How about that? And then the inner content renders what the specific view or the specific route renders, which is nice. So you can see that now we have Phoenix in action chat. Let me back that out just a little bit, because I think this section container has information that we're going to want. So let's do it in here. Phoenix in action chat. Let's see if that works better. So I kind of want that centered. There we go. Perfect. Also, Phoenix has an auto reload mechanism. So once it recognizes that there's been some code changes, it'll automatically reload the application without you having to do anything. And it is not that uncommon for the web page to have been reloaded before I'm even able to come to the app back to the web page, which is pretty crazy. All right, so let's check this. We'll go ahead and quit that, because what we're going to do next is include that Monomic Slugs package now that we have things compiled. So that we do things in terms of packages in the mix.exs file, and everything's configured here in this project function. And you can see the depths, that's our dependencies. If we go down, and then it runs the depths function. So if we go down here to the depths function, we can see these are all the dependencies that our application depends on at the moment. We want to add another one here of Monomic Slugs. Monomic Slugs. Man, that is so hard for me to say and spell. So we're at 0.0.3 on this package. So we want to make sure to get that one, or anything above that within the point release. So we can say mix deps.get, and that'll fetch that package for us. And then we'll restart the server again. And the next time we've restarted it, we'll have that package started with us. So let's do mix phoenix.server, and it'll recompile a little bit because it's got to recompile that Monomic Slugs in for us. So there it is, compiling Monomic Slugs. And while it's recompiling, let's also clear out on our web page here, this little area right here, this welcome to Phoenix, all that. We don't need that. That's not something that that we need. So let's clear that out. And that is in a template directory, template. And since we don't know this yet, but Phoenix, when it generates the code, it creates a page controller and it routes the root route goes to this page controller. So our template is going to be templates.page.index or page index, and it's trying to look at every single I'm going to create a Git repository here, because whenever I try to find a file, it tries to find every file in there, including things like node modules and things like that. So as long as I create a repository, it should ignore those things for me. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot faster. So if we go to pagelive.html.leex and look in there, this is all that that HTML that's generating that box and that search thing and all that. So let's get rid of this and also disable format all mode. All right, so we're just gonna say goodbye to this, save it, and hopefully we've got recompiled. Yes. So as you can see, again, it beat me to get back to the reload. So we have nothing again, which is perfect. That's what we wanted. We wanted nothing. So now we have nothing. Let's add something. Now the first thing we're going to add is just a little button to allow a user to go to a random URL. So let's try that. If we go back to our session here, you'll notice I started the server with that IEX-S mix Phoenix server, and that allows us to go into an IEX REPL. And if you're familiar with Elixir, or if you're not familiar with Elixir, IEX is essentially the REPL for Elixir. And even though it's a compiled language, it does some, on the fly compiling to and then run the code, which is nice. But we can use the things that we've compiled in here. So if we go to Monomic and then Slugs, and then you can even press tab and it has auto completion. So we can say generate slug and maybe like 3 of them. And so now we have Rose, Sahara, Citizen. Cool. So that's pretty neat. But we want to use this on maybe like a button that would take the user to that random URL. So let's create a button. A button. Who's got the button? So I'm just back in this blank pagelive.html.leex file. And first thing we want to do is I'm just going to say a title is create a random room. And create a random room. And we'll see what that looks like. Save it. There's our button. Right now, if we click on it, nothing happens because we haven't added any action to it or anything like that. Now, Phoenix provides, or Phoenix Live View specifically, provides some listeners and some form handlers, things like that. So we can go in and attach Phoenix Live View listeners to specific events in the browser. In this case, we want to listen for a click on this button. So we say Phoenix click, and when we hear that click, we're going to go to the random room, or we're going to send the random room event to our server. So now if I click it, you're going to notice that did you see my cursor spin just a little bit there? That's because if we look in the logs, the server actually crashed. The process that's running this Phoenix Live View that contains this Phoenix Live View process crashed because we haven't defined a function matching in page live in chatweb.pagelive. Now you may be wondering, what is page live? Let me go to the routes or the router file, and in here you can see how Phoenix will handle a request to our server. In this case, it pipes it through this browser, which handles a bunch of things in terms of plugs, like fetching the session, fetching Flash, protecting from forgery, that type of stuff. But the thing we're interested in here is this scope here. So scope / means at the root level, we're going to be in the chat web kind of namespace. We're going to pipe all these requests through this browser pipeline that we see above. And finally, within the / anything that goes to / from there, we want to send to page live and then the index action. So let's look in page live. In here, you can see we have a few different functions defined for us. And again, this was just made by the generator. And a lot of this we're going to delete here in a second. But one thing we want to keep is this mount function. Every time someone requests a new web page from us, Phoenix Live View will run this mount action to mount the page in terms of the socket, the live connection for the user. So we're going to keep that. But this suggest, search, all that kind of stuff we don't want. So let's just go and delete that. But what we do want is to handle that click. So we can just say this impl true is basically saying, yes, this is an implementation. We're implementing a function in this case. So make sure that it kind of basically gives you some extra error handling and messaging for that, which is nice. So we can say def and go back to the error here. We can kind of see how we need to define this. So it says the function that was called was this page live handle event with this random room as the first argument. If you remember, what we told Phoenix to do when we pressed that click was to send an event named random room to our server. And so we need to handle that event now. The second option, or the second parameter, is a list of params, and in this case there are none, so we can ignore them. And then finally, all the events sent to Phoenix are going to be through socket connections or well, the socket information, and that's something we need to carry on throughout the process of the connection. So we're going to need to handle the socket as well, and we'll show you how to do that here in a second. All right, so let's define that handle event random room. And the first thing is, first we need to define the function name. And then another cool thing about Elixir, if you're not familiar with it, is it provides pattern matching on your function definitions. So you can have multiple handle events, and each one can handle a different event. In this case, we need to handle the random room event. So whenever handle event is called, or the message is sent to this process, it's going to look through all the handle events and find one that says, okay, this is the first one of the ones that are defined that matches. So we're going to match on random room. We don't care about the parameters, but we do care about the socket. So like in many programming languages, if you precede a variable with an underscore, that basically tells Elixir that you don't really care about what it is. Now, if I had done this and just not used it, then Elixir's compiler would warn us about that. Said, hey, you've got this variable that you're not using that you haven't preceded with an underscore. Do you really want to use it? And if not, maybe just go ahead and precede that with an underscore. So let's do that. Now, handle event expects a certain type of return value. In this case, we're just going to say no reply in socket. Now, the no reply basically means don't reply to the sender of the message. And in this case, we don't want to reply to the sender of the message because that's another process. We're just going to pass that straight on through. And the socket is what tells Phoenix what to do now with that socket. So since Phoenix basically kind of reloops on itself and handles that process and goes over and over and over and say, what's the new state of the socket? What's the new state of the socket? What's the new state of the socket? And in this case, we're just saying the state of the socket was the exact same as the state of the socket you gave us a minute ago. And we're going to change that in a minute, but I'll show you what happens if we just define it like this. So I'm going to save that. Now, when I go and click this, we don't have that spinning cursor anymore, and the server doesn't crash. In fact, we look in here, there's no crashing on the server. If we wanted to, we could log that out. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that. I'm a kind of a logger guy. I like to just see things in my logs as I'm debugging. So it's likely we're going to need a logger in there anyway. So in this case, let's just say logger info, click, and save that. And we can show you that indeed we are handling that click event. So I'll click that. Go back to our terminal, and yes, you can see in our logs now we have info click. Perfect. Now, what do we need to do to send the user on their way to a random page, random chat room? Well, this is where that Monomic Slugs comes in. Excuse me. We can say that like a random slug equals mnemonic slugs. Mnemonic slug generate slugs, and in this case let's do maybe a 4-string or 4-word slug. Sure, why not? And then let's we can just log out the slug here. I'll show you that. Make sure that works. Click that. We did get a crash there. Let's see what that is. Oh no, that's still reloading, my bad. So let's try it now. Click it. And here is our random slug. We've got Cactus, Gloria, Martin, Family. That's a beautiful chat room name. Now we want to redirect the user to a path that has this in it. That would be their chat room path. So our random slug is going to be that plus the initial slash, because that would be the path. So we're going to, this little left less than or greater than symbol basically means concatenate. So we're concatenating the string of of the slash with the generated slug. So now if I save this, well, you can imagine if I click on the button now, after it reloads, click on the button, you can see that we do indeed have the slash now in front of our generated slug. So let us now redirect the user there. Now, I mentioned earlier that when we return the socket, it basically tells Phoenix Live View what to do with the connection. And Phoenix Live View provides something called a function called push redirect. And it takes the socket as its first argument. So we're going to say, for this socket, push a redirect to the slug. So we're going to basically say, go to this path now. And I bet you can guess what's going to happen when we save this, we press the button, and we'll see we have an error, undefined function slug. Now that may be because, that's because I didn't say random slug. That's not the error that I was expecting. So let's do that, random slug, save that and reload here. Oh, actually I didn't even press reload. Again, Phoenix knows that I saved it, so it reloaded for me. I go to random slug. We can see that we were redirected to this Panther Silk Empire Special URL, but we don't have anything that's handling that request. There's no router that handles that, which is something we need to define. So if you're just joining us, thanks for coming in. I'm Jeffrey Lessel, wrote Phoenix in Action for Manning, and go to phoenixinaction.com. And if you put in the code TWITLESS40, that's 40% off of anything at Manning, not just my book, but hopefully you pick up my book while you're there. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions as we're going through this. There's some contact info on the page there, on the screen there as well. So go through and hit me up wherever you are. All right, let's get back to coding. Now, we need to handle this request now. We need to say, now that the request has been made, we need to go to the new URL. In this case, we need to go to our router file. And right now we're matching on this live slash. Basically says anytime there's any request for this slash page, we're going to be handled by page live. But instead we want to go and handle anything else. So it's basically going to be like a wild card. It's going to catch everything else. And so we can say within here, we're going to also be a live path, and we're going to use this slash and then a colon, and then we're going to, this is up to us, we're just going to name it ID, and let's just call this room live. We're going to create a module called room live to handle all this, and again we'll have the index action. Now ID, what that will do is anytime we request something with a slash in front of it, and anything after that, it'll be put into a parameter called ID for us, so that we can then use that to do something we need to do later, which is to subscribe to the channel's notifications, which we'll get into in a little bit. But for now, let's just do this live ID, room live index. And again, if I reload here at this page, we'll notice that we get a different error now, that room live is undefined. So we need to create this room live handler. I'm going to split the page here and go back to our page live, because we can actually copy and paste some of this into our new module. So I'm going to close that and open up a new one. Oh yeah, and chat web, and then live, and then room live.ex. Paste that. Instead of page live, I'm going to change this to room live. It's going to use live view. We're going to go ahead and put logger in there. And for the mount, for now, we're just going to pass the socket right on with none of these parameters. None of these assigns, rather, and I'll talk about those a bit more later. We're not going to handle any events on this page yet, because there are going to be no events yet. And in params, as I mentioned, now we'll have the param of ID passed along. And again, this is where some of the pattern matching functionality in Elixir comes through, because we can pattern match on the parameters that come through. So we know the ID is going to be our room ID. So we'll just say the only thing we care about in the session at this point, or sorry, in the params at this point, is the room ID. Now the session we don't care about either at the moment, and we're just going to pass the socket right on through and return OK. So when mount actually expects an OK if things have gone as expected when it mounts. So I'm going to save that. And again, we'll get probably a different error as it reloads here. Indeed, it says render 1 was not implemented for Chat Web Room Live. So we need to say what we want the server to render when someone comes to this URL. So we need to define the roomlive.html.leex. Now, leex basically means it's a live Elixir template, which kind of mixes up the HTML and the templating stuff, which is pretty cool. So what are we going to say in our, for now, let's just say, hi, mom, and see what we get. Make sure, oh man, this is what I get for the format all thing. Format all mode off, fly check off. Okay, now let's say hi, mom, bring back up our browser. And so now we have hi, mom, which is neat. Now, what if we wanted to let the user know, because we're cool like that, we want to let them know what room they're chatting in and their username. For now, we don't know usernames. We're not going to worry about that, but we do know already that they're at this Panther Silk Empire Special chat room. So let's let them know that that's where they are. So we can say, I don't know, maybe currently chatting in, and we have this assign. We will have this assign. We don't have it yet, but we'll call it room ID. And let's do it like that. Let's make this strong as well. Strong. All right. See what that looks like. It's going to crash because we haven't defined the room ID assign. Let's see, did that save? Yeah. All right, room ID not available in the EEX template. So why is that? What is room ID? So room ID is an assign. And if you're familiar with other web frameworks and templating things, it's actually the variable that the controller sends on to the view. In this case, we don't have a controller as such, but we have this live view, which acts kind of like a controller as the process. So let's define that room ID. Let's go back to our page live.eex. Let me split the page here again so we can kind of see both at the same time. So over on the right, you can see our HTML, and then on the left is our live view function, or our live view module. So when we mount, we have the room ID. We're not doing anything with the room ID at the moment. But what we can do is we can assign to the socket an assign variable called room ID, and its value is going to be what we pulled out from the function definition, which is room ID. So now if I save this, LiveView will assign to the socket the variable room ID, and we're going to use that now in the rendering on the web page. So now we can say currently chatting in Panther Silk Empire Special. Yay! So let's start styling this up a little bit. I am not a CSS person, so my styles are going to be lacking. You're gonna be able to do things much better than I would, but that is okay. Turn off Flightcharts Io here. Okay, so let's make like a chat container, because we're going to. Before we do that, let's make the chat container. Let's make it first on the page. Let's put it on the page. So we have the currently chatting. Let's go ahead and add a div and name it chat container. And in there, we're going to have like a messages div. And there, we'll say chat goes here for now because we have no chat yet. We're just making it look the way it should look. And close those divs. Save that. And let's see what it looks like now. So chat goes here. Yay. So now let's make that just a little bit more visible. So we're gonna make this display flex, put a border on there. I'll pick solid and maybe something gray-ish. How many C's is that? One more C? Sure. Yeah, there we go. And then padding, let's add padding in there, and then margin. We're gonna do -1 at the top, 1 at the right, and then 1 at the bottom, and then -1 at the right. Let me put an M in here. And then like a flex direction. This will be, we're going to have the chat input at the bottom. So let's just say the chat direction is going to be column on here. So it'll line it up one on top of the other. And I'll justify the content as space between. That'll put the space in between the things. And then let's just set the height a solid value, or a static value for now. And then for chat messages, which is inside, we want to grow that as big as it can get. And right now it'll be plenty big because we don't have anything other than chat messages. So that's going to be what it looks like. So we'll just put our chat in there. At the bottom down here, probably we'll put the input field. And then on the right, we'll eventually put, we'll use presence, Phoenix presence, which is really fun. I think tracks user activity across your distributed application, which is really nice. But we'll put like who's online, who's in the channel at the moment. And that'll be on the right over here somewhere. Again, that'll probably look ugly, but that's what we got. All right, so let's create a form for inputting chat. Speaking of chat, let me look real quick, see if there's any chat going on. No, just mailing list information. Yeah, sign up for Manning's mailing list. Pretty cool. All right, so we're going to do it inside this chat container for now. Are we? Yeah, why not? So we're going to say f equals form4. And like most web frameworks, Phoenix has some form builder helpers and other functions you can use to build forms. So form4 is one of those, and we're going to call the form chat. And for the action, we're going to have it be no action at this moment because we're going to do it all through Phoenix Live View. Now, Phoenix Live View, like you may ask, like what if the user has JavaScript disabled? And in the promo videos, I mentioned that we are actually not going to be writing any JavaScript today, which is insane if you think about it. That it's wild that we've got this crazy real-time interactive website, this chat, but we're not going to write any of the JavaScript. It's all going to be server rendered, and LiveView already has the tools in place to communicate to the server and the client as needed, which is pretty fun. All right, so no, but you can. The reason I mention that is because you can fall back to an HTML route if you need to. In this case, we're not going to. Then we're going to say this, we're going to put an ID of chat form on here just so we can track it with our CSS. And then Phoenix, I mentioned earlier that Phoenix has those hooks that you can log, or you can hook onto to do callbacks or handle messages, send messages. One of those for forms is Phoenix submit. And we can just say, we can call this one submit message, submit chat, submit message. How about submit message? And then, let's see, do anything else in there? I don't think so. Let's go with that. Then we need a text input. We'll call this it's going to be for the F variable because we're saying F is the form for chat. So F, and then in there is going to be the message. And then we'll have a placeholder of enter your message. Sure. And then we need to close out the form. Now, Phoenix does have the ability to do all this within like a do block where you don't have to manually close out the form. But Phoenix Live View, the way it tracks things is it essentially needs this F variable to be able to know when things have changed within the web page and re-render them correctly, helpfully. Not sure what the right word for that would be, but to do it very efficiently. So we need to do it that way. So now we have our chat text box here, which is lovely. So I want to chat. So what happens if we like hit enter here and so we see, you saw that spinning wheel and it crashed. If we go back to our logs here, our server logs, you can see that it crashed. And the reason was because we don't have a handle event submit message. Just like when we had that, the click for the button to start up the, or to go to the random web page, random chat room, we don't have the ability to submit the message quite yet. And I really hope the stream is coming through okay. I keep seeing on my presenting software that my kilobits per second goes down to 0 occasionally. So if you're getting stutters or the stream is dropping out, I really apologize. I'm not sure what that is. But hopefully it's fine on your end and my OBS software is just lying to me. Because when has software never lied to you? All right, we need to define the handle event submit message. So let's do that. And that's going to be inside our page live, or sorry, our room live. This is an implementation. So we're going to say def handle event, and our event is submit message. And then it's going to have params. In this case, we do care about the params because that's going to be the form. When this submit message is called or sent, it's going to grab all the information from the form and send that on with the message. So we do have a chat. We named the form itself chat. And then within that chat form, we have a field called messages. Or sorry, message. So we can say message is, we can basically pattern match that message to grab it as we define the function itself. And then, of course, we always have the socket come along as well. For now, let's just log out the message. So log info message was message. And again, we're going to say no reply and send the socket straight on through. Now, I think I probably have one too few closing parentheses. No? Okay, we should be good. All right, let's submit a message now and see what happens. A message. Hit enter. So we see it didn't crash. We still have our message in the box here. If we go to our terminal, we can see that we do have message, a message. So we are receiving that message fine. Now, what do we need to do with that message, right? We need to broadcast that message out to all the people who are currently subscribed to the webpage. I wonder, maybe we should do this in a different order. Like, what if we, instead of worrying about multiple users first, let's just worry about, well, actually, we can do both at the same time. All right, we're going to do this. On mount, we're going to do something special here that Phoenix provides. Now, I mentioned that Phoenix Live View is basically using sockets and channels to do the communication between client and server side. And it's built in already into Phoenix, and Phoenix Live View essentially builds on top of what's already provided to make things really easy to configure. But we're going to tap into that power ourselves and do some of our own subscribing and broadcasting, things like that. So the idea of a channel is basically that there's a topic, and you can subscribe to a topic, and anytime a message is sent out from that topic or to the subscribers of that topic, then we'll need to handle that message as a topic listener. So first, let's define a variable or assign a variable topic, and it'll say room, and then we'll pin the room ID to the room. So in this case, our topic would be, what was our topic would be room : Panther Silk Empire Special. Let's change this. Since again, remember, we can put anything in here as the ID. So if I put in just Phoenix in action, now we have a chat room dynamically created for us called Phoenix in action. So the channel would be named room, or sorry, the topic would be named room : Phoenix in action. So let's do that. That's going to be our room ID. And ChatWeb defines something called an endpoint, and the endpoint, within the endpoint, we can subscribe to topics. So this is, we're going to subscribe to this topic, and our endpoint will take care of all the leavings, the goings, the subscribings, the unsubscribes, the message passing. All that's going to be handled for us within the endpoint, which is really nice. And we're also let's go ahead and send the topic along into our assigns, so that later, like in other events, later on, we can pull that topic out of the assigns, and we don't have to keep recomputing it. It'll just be within the socket, which is nice. And then let's go ahead and set up something that tracks our messages. So let's say messages, hello, Manning. How about hello, Twitch? Hello, Twitch. So that's going to be our messages. I'm going to put this in a list for now. I'm going to set array in a list for now. Save that. And now what are we going to do with that? So we're not doing anything with the topic. We're not doing anything with the messages. And even though we've subscribed to the topic, we haven't done anything in terms of sending messages to that topic. But we'll do that in a second. For now, let's go back to our HTML. And where it says chat goes here, let's actually put out the messages, or list out the messages. So we'll say for message in messages, and again, we have that little @ symbol because we've assigned this to the socket, so it's available within the view template. We are going to let's put it like in a P, and put an ID. ID. There we go. And the message, since it's going to have to have an ID, let's define what a message is going to look like. Let's not do that yet. We're not going to worry about IDs. I'll show you why we need an ID in a little bit, but for now we don't need it. So let's not complicate things. So we're just going to put out the message, which is just the string. And then let's close out our end here. Close out our for. All right, what does that look like? All right, so now we have hello Twitch. That's our first message within the messages assigned. So we can add another one here. How are things? And then that should show up underneath hello Twitch because we're rendering out all the messages. So one of the things we want to do is, again, I want to make this look a little bit better. Can we, let's not do that yet. Let's not do that. All right. Instead of hello, let's just say something like Twitch joined the chat. And we'll leave it at that. All right. Because I would like it to have it, the ability to, as people leave or go, leave or join, it'll give us messages like, you know, Gio joined the chat, or Richard left the chat, Kelly joined the chat, things like that. So let's keep it right there for now. So now let's handle what happens if someone sends a message. Like if I type something in here, hit enter, we're doing nothing. The message is being received by our process here in Room Live, but it's not been doing anything except for logging it out. But we want to do something more. So I mentioned earlier that this chat web endpoint, we're subscribing to the topic right now, but we're not really doing anything to it. For now, we can say chatweb.endpoint, and we could broadcast to the topic. So we put that in our assign so we could get it out here. So socket assigns topic. Do we name it topic? Yeah, we named it topic, not room. Okay, good. So and the second thing is going to be the event that we're broadcasting. In this case, we're going to say, hey, a message was received. So a new message was sent. And then the value, or basically the payload, let's call it the payload. So the message is going to be the payload. And that's, again, just the string for the moment. Perfect. And so no reply socket's still gonna be good. So when we broadcast this, we should see something interesting. So hello, hit enter. Again, we see that spinny blue ball and it crashed. Look in our logs, we crashed. Why did we crash, right? We thought we were handling everything. Well, when we subscribe to the topic of the room we are in, and then we send a message to that topic, but we haven't handled that message. And messages like this, these broadcast messages, are handled with an handle info function. So we need to define this handle info with this event information in it as well. That shouldn't be too hard. So we'll impl true, def handle info, and we can pattern match on the message, which was new message. No, sorry, the event, not message. I had message on my mind. New message, and you can see the next thing within this struct of the Phoenix socket broadcast, the next thing was payload, which had the message in it. So payload, the payload key has our message. What else do we need from there? We have the topic, the room topic, which we don't need in this situation. And then we have the socket itself, which of course we are going to need. So let's take the socket and do something in here. So we can say, let's just log this out again. Let's say payload this time to make it a little bit different than the other. And again, we're not going to reply, but we are going to pass the socket on as it was. All right, so now when we submit a message, we should see a logger info here for message of the message, and then it's going to broadcast that out to all the listeners, the subscribers to the topic, which we are one. So we should see another info of payload with that same message. Let's see if that's what we actually get. Do you hear me? All right, looks like something happened. Yes, we have message, do you hear me? And payload, do you hear me? Perfect. That is what we wanted. So we have that now. So what do we do with it? Well, we can append that to the list of messages, and then Phoenix is smart enough to know that that messages has changed. So it will then re-render all it needs to render to make the page work. I can't think of a better way to say it. It makes the page work. So how are we going to do that? for now, right now, okay, remember we're looping through or iterating through the messages. And so we want to append that to the list of messages. So let's do that. So instead of just logging it, we're going to assign this to the socket, our messages. And in this case, we're going to say the socket assign. So what's in messages right now, and then tack onto that the new message. All right. So this little, I call it the Guillotine Operator. It's not the name of it, but I like to think of it like that because it separates the head from the tail. So this basically says put all the messages in there first, and then also the new message. Although this isn't going to work quite right. So let's do something a little different. Let's, instead of this way, let's just do this appending there like that. That'll tack it on to the end. All right. So let's say, did you get this? Okay. So something did go wrong. Key message not found in because it's messages. Yep. So messages and this one plus the new message. All right, that'll reload. Hello. All right, so now we have hello showing up on our messages because again, Phoenix tracks the state of the assigns in the socket, recognizes that there has been a change in the messages assigned, and then re-renders just that part of the HTML. In fact, if we look at the network requests, let's see. Let's do another one. Oh, you know what? I need to reload to get this WebSocket connection. And I think it might be this one. Response. Okay, so if we say hello. So it sent that request response. That's just, maybe it was this one. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so you can see that in this message, it did send both of our messages because that is the messages assigned. It also has this form because we're not doing things super efficiently with the form, but that's okay for what we're doing today. So again, all it sent was this hello, which is super nice. Well, and this Twitch during the chat, but you may be thinking, well, what if you have like 1 million messages and every time what you're doing is you're appending the new message to the list of 1 million messages? That's not going to scale well. And you are correct. Good for you. You get the gold star. But instead, we want to do something. Well, Phoenix already thought of that too. So the way that Phoenix thought of that is it's like, well, this is going to happen. We need a way to deal with that because it stores the assigns in a process, and that process is long running. So that's still going on my server. It's just keeping track of this process as my my browser is connected. Oh, another very important thing about our chat application that I forgot to mention that's going to come into play here is if you're not there when the chat is sent, then you don't see that message. So it's not like Slack where it's got the history. There is no history. That's why there's no database. There's no users. It's like if the tree falls in the forest, no one's around to hear it. It doesn't make a sound. In this case, it makes no sound. There's no one to hear it. It's like it never existed. It's ephemeral. It's gone. It was like it's never there in the first place. So Phoenix handles this through something called temporary assigns. So in here we can tell it which assigns we're considering temporary. In this case, messages is temporary. And once it uses the value of messages, we have to tell it what to basically reset that value back to. So in this case, we want it back to an empty array. Sorry, empty list. Let me save that. Should reformat a little bit better. There we go. So what's it going to do? So Phoenix is going to take the initial value of messages here, which has Twitch join the chat. It's going to go to our HTML and iterate through all our messages and print out the message in our little p tag here. And once it's done doing that, it knows, hey, I've done what I need to do with this messages assigned. So I'm going to then throw it away. Basically, I'm going to reset it to this temporary state of messages equals an empty array. Now, if you think about it, you're like, well, we have Twitch on. Now, if I type in hello, well, that still comes through because we have signs messages. Did that save? Maybe I didn't save that. Let's try it. Oh, I did save it. Hello. Okay. Well, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, which I thought it was going to erase everything in the messages because now we only have that one message. But now we want to, when it receives a new message, to just put that new message into the list of messages, because that's the only one that we now care about. So in here, if we do that now, hello, you can see that it takes the place of the previous message, and that's not what we want either. But again, Phoenix has thought of that. So within this chat messages, it has this Phoenix update callback or attribute. And it says, whenever Phoenix receives an update for this div, what do we do with it? Now, the default is replace. So it'll just replace that whole div with the new information and go from there. But instead of replace, we want to append. That's another option for Phoenix update. Also prepend and a couple others that are all covered in the documentation, which is excellent, by the way. So we went to append. That means just pop it at the end of the whatever list you already had going, and that should be good. So hello. That did not do it either. So let's see here. We do have our message hello, and I'm not sure why we don't have the list of messages anymore. Because we're going to print the message. Let me just make sure we're still getting this payload of message. All right, send a message here. And yeah, we are getting the payload. Okay, interesting. So let's figure this out. Why is this coming through in this manner? What we can do is we can actually log out the current state of messages. Also, it's interesting that for now, the messages, like when I reload the page, so if I reload the page, you can see that this says Twitch joined the chat, but it goes away real quick. I don't know if you can see that through the stream, but reload, it's there and it's gone. So we gotta figure out why that is, because that should not be happening either. So let's think about this. It might be that I put in the wrong Phoenix update. Tell you what, let's go to those excellent docs I was mentioning and check it out. So let me see, dash. And then not in here, but we want, there's a guide for handling form bindings in here. So you know what, I bet it's Phoenix change. Form events. No, we don't want form events. We just want regular bindings. So go back to the live view docs. So Phoenix live view. And then down here, we can see bindings. All right, so we have click events, form events, focus events, key events, which is cool to handle like keyboard shortcuts, which is pretty neat. Form events, Phoenix change, and DOM patching is Phoenix update. So I think we should have, we did have it right, Phoenix update. I'm wondering if I put it in the wrong DOM. So we have replace, ignore, append, and prepend. And this might be where the ID thing I was talking about earlier might come into play. It goes through and talks about how, you know, we do have temporary signs. Oh, it's got messages as well. Let's see. Now, whenever there are more than one or more new messages, we will assign only the new messages to messages. In the template, we want to wrap all the messages in a container and tag this content with Phoenix update. Remember, we must add an ID to the container as well as to each child. So that's the reason it's not coming through, is because we're not attaching an ID to the child. And I should have added it earlier. I knew I was going to get into the trouble. But for now, let's just say it's the message itself. So the ID is the string of the message, which, as you can imagine, will also get us in trouble later, because what if you put in the same message twice? But now, at least we'll be able to see hello be appended to our list of messages, and we know that. Thanks, Fump. Yes, there's the if connected. He mentioned that, or Fump mentioned that there is an if connected thing you can do. So we can say if connected socket, that we can do some things. Do, you know, hi. But for now, we don't need to do that. We can if we wanted within the subscribe. So so if connected instead of socket, then we can do this subscribe. Subscribe to the topic. But in this case, the issue was the ID. Oh wait, if connected. There we go. Okay, back to being good. Now we need to do something a little better than just handling the ID as the message itself. So there's another package that we can use called Uuid. That's just like simple. Let's just generate something completely random. 1.1.8 is the current thing. So again, we're gonna need to restart the server because we're gonna break it, install those dependencies, deps.git, and that's done. So let's restart the server. It's going to compile those things. There's a few warnings within the Uuid package itself, but we don't really care about those at the moment. So now we're going to start talking about handling the message in some sort of structure, because right now it's just the string, but we're going to need some more information about it, like that Uuid. So what can we do? We can do a few different things. We can create its own module. We can that would basically be its own struct. That might be the smarter thing long term. Short term, let's do something a little faster. So we can just say Uuid, and Uuid has I think it's Uuid 4 function. We'll see if that blows up. Actually, let's check it in the IEX session. Uuid 4. Yeah, cool. That gives us the ID. So we're just gonna have this random ID, and then in the Uuid key within our map here. And then we'll have maybe just like content. Yeah, let's just call it content. And let's do that. Save that. Now it's going to blow up because in our HTML we're not handling into that map. We're just saying we're just handling as if it was a string. So we do need to handle it as the map. So for each message, now the ID is going to be the message Uuid. And the printed content is going to be message content. Save that. We should now get messages again. But again, if I type a message, we'll crash again because we're not handling the correct message type in this handle event. Let me kill out these loggers. And instead of a new message with just passing on the string, we can say the message is going to be this map here. And again, we're going to need a Uuid. Uuid 4. And then the content is going to be the message, which again is the string that we're receiving from the form. So we're going to pass that on as the message, or broadcast that as the message. So now everything's hooked up correctly again, and now we have the Uuid handled as well, which is nice. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. No reason to waste that screen space. That sweet screen space. All right, thank you for going through that with me. That was quite the journey, but we did it. All right, what's next? What if each user that comes in, like right now, I can type hello. Oh, by the way, let me bring up another page here, the browser window, and show you that this is already handling multiple connections. Localhost 4000. Oh yeah, and we wanted to go to the Phoenix in action chat room because that's where all the action's happening. I'm here too. Sweet. So you can see that I entered it here, and we got it on the initial browser, which is what we wanted. You can also see that, as I mentioned, this hello was sent during this session's lifetime, but not during this session's lifetime. So this session on the right has no clue that that happened earlier, which is kind of what we want. We want it to be like, if you're not here for the party, then you don't get to see what happened. Let me just keep this over to the side. I don't know how that's going to look, but sure, let's try that. One big, one small. Now, another thing you may mention is, or you may see is, as I'm, entering messages here, the form content, that text area content or text input content doesn't change, doesn't go away. There's a few different things we can do to handle that. And I originally planned on handling that later, but it's just going to annoy me that it doesn't go away. So let's handle it now, right? this is again, the two different ways we could do it that I could think of. There's probably others. Is we can actually write a JavaScript hook that will listen for events and clear out this input as it's submitted. Again, I really wanted to do this whole thing without writing any JavaScript, so we're not going to do it that way. Instead, we're going to hook into another hook that Phoenix provides. So again, or if you remember, we had this in this form, we had this Phoenix submit message, but we also can have Phoenix update. And that means every time anything in this form changes, send this message to the process, the handling process. So we can say, I don't know, form updated. All right, so then we need to handle that, right? So we have the submit message event handled. So implementation true, def handle event. What did I call it? Form update. Let's not say updated, let's say update. Now, what do we want to do on the update? Again, we have the chat form, and within there we have the messages text field, and we can call that message, and then the socket, of course, always. And we can basically track the value of that form. So let me show you. Let's log out here. The message, and we don't want to do a no reply, and just pass on the socket as it is. So nothing's going to happen in here except for logging it out. So now let me see if I can. What's the best way to do this? I'll go this up a little bit. All right, so now when I type a message, every time I type a letter, we should see something going on in the logs. And we don't. Perfect. Are we getting that message? Probably not, because we're not logging that info out. Save that. Reload. All right, is it form update or Phoenix update? No, it's Phoenix change, I think it was. Yeah, not Phoenix update, it's Phoenix change. All right, let's try that. If you're like familiar with Phoenix, you're probably shaking your fist at me right now. All right, we have a crash here. Why is that? Because we're not handling the event correctly. We have form update, the CSRF token. We don't care about that. Oh, chat message, and then that. So what are we not handling correctly? So it must be something in here that I'm doing. I'm doing messages. So again, I mentioned that Elixir does pattern matching on the functions. So in this case, it tried to match the complete pattern we gave it, which was chat, and within the chat map, there's a messages key, and within the messages key, there's a message value. But there is no messages key. It's called message. So let's try it now. All right, so we have the log down below, and as we type, yeah, you can see that the message continues to build as we type. And that's what we want. Because then what we can do is when we submit the message, the chat message, we can reset this assign. We can assign, first of all, we need to make an assign. So we can assign the message string. So we can say message equals blank. And in here, we have this text input message, and it actually uses the value of the assigns. In this case, it's going to be message, which is going to be helpful for us. It could be confusing if you didn't know that that's happening, but that's what we're going to do. And so then we can say form update message. We're going to assign to the socket. Message is going to be the current value of what's in the message text field. And then over the text input, we need to tell it that what the value of it is. So again, let me look in the documentation for text input, see which one that is. Text input here. We have form field options. Let's see, the form should either be a form emitted by form 4 or an atom. All given options are forwarded to the underlying input. Default values are provided for ID, name, and value if possible. So let's try value. So placeholders forwarded on and value will also be forwarded on. So value equals message. All right, let's see what that does. Hello. And then let's do form submit. So when we submit the message, we also Right now we're just passing the socket on, but instead we want to reset the message assigned to a blank string. Now let's cross our fingers and see if this works. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So basically, if you're familiar with React, it's kind of like a controlled input now, to where we're telling it what the value is. It just happens to be that whatever we type is going to the server, setting an assign. The assign is going back to our view and saying this is now your value as an input. The JavaScript way probably is the faster or better way, but again, I wanted to do this stream without writing any JavaScript just to say we could do that. So sweet. Now we need users. Okay, let's generate some users. To do that, let's generate a user. So the user is going to be the Monomic Slugs again, and we can say generate slug. Not generated slug. Generate slug. Let's just say 2. And the username is going to be the username. So let's change this from user to username. So let's say instead of Twitch join the chat, let's say username join the chat and see if that works. I think I got the Monomic Slugs thing right. Yeah. So in this case, I am Agent Deliver. Oh, that's a pretty sweet name. And over here on the right is tripod history. So since the user is not picking their username, let's let them know who they're chatting as. So up here in our top right, we see the HTML of what's being generated. So we're saying currently chatting in the room ID, and then we can say like, I don't know, as, make it strong again, and then the username. Close out that strong. All right, undefined function username, because I didn't put a ampersand or like a @ symbol in front of that. It's not local variable. All right, so now we are currently chatting in Phoenix in action as Child Arctic. Sweet. And on the right, it's Screen Arrow. All right, so Child Arctic joined the chat and Screen Arrow joined the chat. Those, again, if you remember, those are just statically generated based on the current user, who they are at the moment. But we need to do something a little more dynamic, let's say, because if another person joins, like if we go and join again, all right, we want the Phoenix in action chat room. Phoenix in action. So Phoenix Dispute joined the chat, but these two, Screen Arrow and Child Arctic don't know about Phoenix Dispute yet. Wow, Phoenix! How strange that Phoenix came up as a random name. That's pretty fun. All right, bye Phoenix Dispute. So we want to be able to track those as well. So how do we do that? Let's do that through presence. Let's get into presence. No, let's not get into presence yet. But instead, let's track who submitted the message. So if I press SDF, I know I typed that. But over here in Screen Arrow's screen, he doesn't know that Child Arctic is the one who typed that. So that's one more piece of metadata we need to track within our our map here that's tracking the message contents. So we have UUID, we have the content. Let's also put the username in here. For now, let's just say username system for this initial message. But eventually this initial message is going to go away. But for now, let's just say that because it's going to need something. And so for this message, the username is in our socket. So we can say socket assigns username. And it's going to broadcast that message. And then it's going to pass that on to the view template. And we can handle it there. So instead of just message content, let's say the username, type in the user, or put out the username. Oh, it's the message username, right? Not the assigns username. It's the message username. Close out that strong, and then a colon, and then the message content. All right, so now we have system, Rose Scorpio joined the chat. So if I enter a message over here as Rose Scorpio, then press sample over here on the right should see that this message is for me, or from me. Hi, I'm Rose. Sweet. So now we have, we know who is actually sending this message. So press sample. Hi, Rose. I'm sample. Cool. Now both know who each other, what they're talking about. If you've not joined us for a little while, thanks for joining in midway. My name is Jeffrey Lessel. I wrote Phoenix in Action. Let me just go through this again. I'm on a few places online. Twitter is at GeoLessel. And then I've got a blog at jeffreylessel.com. Haven't done anything with it for a while, but there's still some good content up there about Ecto and Elixir. And then I do some YouTube streaming as well at youtube.com/c/GeoLessel. I've been doing some Emacs stuff recently, but I'm hoping to do more Elixir stuff on there as well soon. So join me there. Also, if you're watching and you want anything from Manning.com at 40% off, then today's your lucky day, because you can just type in TWITLESS40 to get 40% off everything at Manning.com, including Phoenix in Action. And let me show you this. If you go, I made it real easy. I put up a redirect. If you just go to Phoenix in Action, if I spell it right, phoenixinaction.com, it'll take you right there. It'll take you right to Manning's page. Add it to your cart, enter TWITLESS40 to get 40% off. And if you go to this particular URL, I'll just get a little bit more for it, and that'll help me out. I really appreciate it. So thank you for doing that. Let me go back to coding. Let's get back to it. Thanks for allowing me to do that, and thanks for showing up, by the way. I really do appreciate it. It's kind of fun being here. Again, if you have any questions or anything like that, you want to see something specific, put it in chat. I did find a way to pop out that chat so I don't have to watch the stream and stream at the same time, because that was, my eyes were starting to water doing that. But I can see your chat, so that's good. All right, so we have the ability to track who sent the message and print that out on anyone who's subscribed to this page, or who's logged into the page, or not logged in, but who's open to this page because they are subscribed to that topic. Now, let's get into tracking presence, because that's pretty fun. When I first saw how easy presence was in Phoenix, my mind was kind of blown. And because I'm like that, I'm just going to pull out this form into out here, because I didn't like the way it looked inside there. So that doesn't look any better. It looks pretty nasty, but it looks, well, maybe it looks better. Let's say it looks better. Let's pretend. You and I, let's play pretend that is better. It actually will look better when we put in the box for the users. So let's build that box just to make it look better for now. So in here, let's say div ID equals user list maybe. And then for now, let's just say, user 1 and user 2. Let's do that and clear out the div. And let's see what that looks like. We're going to need to do some CSS, because if you remember, we did this as a flex column, I believe it was. Let me go back to my CSS. App CSS. Yeah, flex direction column. So let's delete that. This should put it side by side. It does, which is good. Let's put the border on chat messages. So then we need the margin on chat messages too. There we go. So the users are on the right. And let's put in like a H2 or like an H3 users online. Yeah. Again, this isn't a CSS session, as you can plainly see. But we'll say this is good enough for us. All right. I did lose some of my padding inside my chat messages, which I do like. Let's do that. All right, cool. Boom. Hire me as your next designer. Okay. Moving on. Let's do presence. What is presence? Presence is something built into Phoenix that uses I forgot the acronym. I guess let's go to presence here in the docs, which again are excellent. Phoenix presence. It does it with oh shoot, I forgot what it was called, and it's not in here. I thought it mentioned the crazy word it used to do the presence over multiple servers. But anyway, it was just some protocol to handle distributed presence tracking, so that when a user logs in, that user is tracked not tracked in the sense of like we want to know where they're going so we can sell them ads, but more like, is this user online and active on this particular topic? What we can do with that is like if a user logs in with their cell phone and on the web, we can know that they're active on their phone, but maybe inactive on the web. And then we can actually, if for some reason like their account gets canceled or something like that, we can kick them out of all those sessions, which is pretty cool. We can also, the way we're going to use it today is we're going to have a user list of see who all is online at the moment, so we can see who we might be chatting with over on the right hand side there. All right, so excuse me, we do need to do a few different things to set this up. Let me just look at something real quick. The easiest thing to do is Phoenix provides a generator for presence. So let's just use that. So mix, I think it's Phoenix gen presence. Let's see if that's it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so it generated this file for us in channels, presence.ex. And then it says, add your new module to your supervision tree in lib chat application. This is what I love about Elixir. It's like you could know like nothing about what's going on, and it'll usually give you pretty good indication about what you need to do next. So here's our children in our application. This basically starts all our supervision tree, which means that anything in here is supervised, which means if it goes down for one reason or another, then Phoenix will try to start it back up. Our application will try to start it back up in the last known good state, which is pretty sweet. So we can say it was chatweb.presence. Easy enough. So we need to add that to a supervision tree as well, so that it'll start it up on startup of our application and also track it and supervise it and make sure it's alive and healthy as it goes. All right, so let's restart our server, and our presence will be started automatically for us. But let's look in that presence file it generated for us just to see what's in there. It's super small. I mean, this is all it is for now. It uses the Phoenix presence, and it has our OTP app. That's the app of our Phoenix application's name is chat. And then the pub sub server that we're using is chat.pubsub. And again, this is something that's was generated automatically for us when we started up Phoenix with the Phoenix generator. All right, now that we have it, let's use it. To use it, whoa, I'm going to close a window, not start one. We need to do something in mount here. Let's expand this if connected. So instead of just one thing, we're going to do a couple different things. First of all, we're going to subscribe to the topic, but we're also going to announce our presence. That's a good way to say it. We're just going to tell presence we want to start tracking it. And we're going to say, chatweb.presence. And it has a track function. And let's look at the documentation. The track function here, it says track an arbitrary process as a presence. Same with track 3, except track any process by topic and key. So if we look at track 3 up here, track a channel's process as a presence. Track presences are grouped by key, cast as a string. For example, to group each user's channels together, use user IDs as keys. Each presence can be associated with a map of metadata to store small ephemeral state, such as the user's online status. To store detailed information, see fetch. We don't need detailed information at the moment, but what we do want to do is group the user's channels by their username. In this case, the usernames are random, so it shouldn't matter too much that, there could be collisions, but in our case, we don't really care about the collisions that much because it's improbable there'll be collisions within the same room, especially since the rooms themselves are random. It could happen. This is just a toy application anyway, but if you decide to make the next Slack, then you might want to handle these potential collisions and have logins and usernames. If we did have like logins and usernames or set usernames, then that wouldn't be an issue at all. But for now, we're going to say for this process, that's what self means, and for the topic of the room and the room ID, we're going to track the key of username. And then this map is the extra metadata we want to store about this particular user. In this case, we don't have anything in there. Let me save that. So now when the page loads here, All right, that is reloading a lot because we're getting error messages. That's what I was going to say next, but it beat me to it. We need to handle this. So, all right, let me stop the server just so you can see this. In Room Live here, what is this error message getting? Why are we getting this error message? Because you can see that we're getting another message being sent to our page live, or sorry, our Room Live, and that message is this event of presence diff. Now, what is presence diff? If you look back in the documentation at the very top here, let's go down here. So here's how we presence track. Here's like what happens. It says, finally, a diff of presence join and leave events will be sent to the client as they happen in real time with the presence diff event. The diff structure will be a map of joins and leaves of the form. Got a map, joins is the key, and then each one of these is the key of the thing being tracked. In this case, it's our username. And these are the metas. We can store meta information in here. We haven't in this case, but it includes this Phoenix ref for us automatically, but we don't store any other information. But what we want to do is know or handle this presence diff because it's sent to us as we join the channel. Since we joined it, it seems weird that we get the message as well. But if you think about it, it's not odd. It's not that odd because everything is as a message. We're trying to make everything a message to and from the client and the server. So in this case, the client joins or mounts the socket, the page, and in mount here, we're doing all this in mount. We are starting to track the presence, and once the presence receives that track message, then it sends out a diff message to everyone that's subscribed to this particular topic or this particular topic. And that includes the client that's currently connected. So we need to handle that. So let's go down here and add another handle of info. So it's another implementation, handle info. In this case, it's an event, and the event name is presence diff. And let me just verify that's presence diff and not diff presence. It is presence diff. Okay. And the payload has joins. Let's just call that joins. And it also has leaves. Let's bind that to leaves. And that's all we care about in the event. And of course, it sends the socket along with it as well. Now, for now, let's just do a no reply so we don't just get the crazy reloads all the time because of the crash and reload. Save that. Let me reshare the server. And now we should be able to load the page without it completely crashing on us. It is taking a little while to actually finish that load, and I'm not exactly sure why. I may have more old information in the session. Okay. Well, we'll go with that for now, but we do need to handle this presence diff. So how are we going to handle this presence diff? So let's, what do we want to do when a user leaves or joins? The first thing we want to do is we'd like to send a specific type of message to the chat client so that we can say, you know, X user joined or X user left. So let's do that first. All right. So we have joins, we have leaves. Let's do a logger info of joins, just see what's in there, and then leaves, see what's in there as well. Save that, and it's going to reload. So we can see here we have some joins. So we have topic split was the username that joined, and then we can see in this metas we do have the Phoenix ref, which again we're not using, but we also didn't provide any other metas. And we also have chef define, which joined, and it loaded twice because of I think because it's reloaded and then automatically mounted from the auto reload. All right, so what do we want to do for both of those? Well, first we want to create a message for each of those. So let's do this. Let's say we have joins, we have leaves. Those are two separate, two separate maps. And each of those maps has the username. I would like to reduce all those down to just a list of messages that we can then send to the clients. So what would be the best way to do that? Well, let's kind of do it a quick and dirty way first, and then if we want to, we can come back and refactor it. But let's just see if we can make it work. So messages is going to equal, and we're going to take joins first. And for each of the joins, I'm sorry, the joins is a map. So we need to do map.keys, send that into map keys. We get all the keys of the map, which are the usernames. And then that way we can map those and say it's going to take a function, and the function is going to receive the username, and then we can create a message, which the message has a UUID, UUID4, and the content, let's say it's going to be username joined, like that. I think that's all we need for now. Yeah, the username, there isn't a username. So that's going to crash when we first do it, but we'll take care of that here in a minute. Because, well, we could have the username be system. Let's make it system for now, just so it won't crash. Username is system. Okay, so those are our messages with joins, and then we can also we can call this join messages, and then we can also create a leave messages equals, and then really the same thing. So leaves, pipe that into map.keys because that gives us the usernames, and then we can enum map function. That's the username, and then it's going to have a UID, UID4. The content is going to be username left, and then username is going to be system. Okay, and then we need to end that. Whoops, I forgot to close out the map. Not that one. Over here. Okay, so now in our socket, we want to assign to the socket messages, and now our messages are going to be those join messages plus the leave messages. And let's see what that gives us. All right, go back to our web page. We do have the system messages coming. So we'd say that salon service joined and then genetic finish joined. So it looks like we're getting those correctly. Let's open up a new one. Localhost 4000, Phoenix in action. Here's the chat room. And then screen drama. Yeah, so we have screen drama joined. So now we have presence tracking at least. So if let's make screen drama leave. Yeah, so screen drama left. And you see how quick that was, by the way? That, it's one of the cool things about presence is it's super fast and performant. So everyone knows now that screen drama, popped in, took a look around, was like, this is a dumpster fire, and left. He is no longer with us. All right, what do we want to do now? Let's build out this users online. Before we do that, let me go back to the CSS. And for the chat messages, let's say chat messages, any paragraphs and chat messages, let's set those margins to 0 and the padding to 0. Just make things a little squishier. There we go. That looks a little better for me, to my eye. And we also want to take out, if you remember, we had this initial messages array of one of those messages. Let's take that out completely and just let presence track the joins and the leaves. That's looking good. Okay, next thing is these the user tracking. Now, we know when a user joins and we know when a user leaves because we have this handle info presence diff. You know what? Let's do something a little bit different here. Let's have a type, a message type. In this case, we're gonna have this is gonna be a system message type. So it's gonna come from the system, and it's not gonna have a username. And then down here, this also is not gonna have a username, but it is going to have a type. It's a system type. Okay, and I'm doing this because I kind of want to use show you an interesting thing about the ability to pattern match. And you'll notice that it's just reloading itself because it's crashing because there is no username, and it thinks that there should be a username. So we need to take care of that. It's just going to keep crashing itself and reloading itself until we fix that. So let's be nice to it and fix it. Back to our HTML. We are trying to take out the message username, which in this case is nothing. But instead of this p tag here, what if we created a function called I don't know, display message, and it's going to do that for the message. Let's delete the rest of that, and that's going to be the whole thing. So now it's going to crash for a whole different reason because we haven't defined display message. And since we're in the process, since again, remember, each page that's loaded and running is a process within Phoenix. So the message is going to be called to the process itself, or on the process itself. So we need to find display message in here. Now here's where the pattern matching is going to come in. Inside the message, there's going to be two different types of structs. They're not really a struct, two different types of maps. One is going to have the type of system, and the other is not. So we can pattern match here. So type system. So whenever there is a message that comes through as a parameter, with a parameter and inside that map has the type of system, then this is the function definition that's going to match. And in this case, we also want the UUID, so we can grab that, and we also want the content. So let's grab that as well. We can just bind all that right in the function declaration. And then here's the content we pulled out. Let's just say like that. I need to put put a new line there. Okay. Save that. This is only going to match for the first one, but then we can say for any other display message that has no type, we can say all we need is the UUID and the content, and this actually I'm gonna have this backwards, and the username. Do. And this is actually what's going to be displayed for messages from users, and we need to do something else for messages without users. For now, I'm going to display nothing, just to make sure that our other display is working correctly. So this should display message, and it does not. So let's make sure that this is being done correctly. I think, is it E? Nope. Undefined function message. So there's something, oh, right. It's not message.uud, and it's not message.username, and it's not message.content. It's just, I've already pattern matched those out. Hello. Okay, cool. So that is working again. So now we need to handle those system messages, which is up here. For those, let's make it look pretty similar to this. But instead of a strong, let's put like an M, and we don't need username. Let's just say that the content there is going to be like that, and then close out the M. So that should be like italics. Let's see what that does. Yeah. So alibi broken joined, and circus segment joined, and then our normal messages should look normal. Yeah, cool. Okay. And then anytime we get any other message type that doesn't match one of these two, it'll blow up on us, which we kind of want it to do. We want it to be loud so we know how to handle it in the future, which is good. So now we need to go to that user list. So we know how to handle the joins and the leaves, which is up here. And if you look back in the documentation, it actually has this get by key. The presence module has this get by key function. This function returns the map of presence metadata for a socket topic key pair. In this case, well, you can see in the example here, get by key room 1 and user 1. So in the assigns, we stored the topic and we stored the username, which are the two things we need, because we also told presence to track it by the topic and by username as the key. So we can use this get by key and see all the current information about the users as they are. So let's use that in this handle info presence diff, because the time we need to update the user list is the time when the presence diff comes through, right? Because anytime a user leaves or joins, this presence diff message will be sent, and that's when we need to update our list. So let's just bind this to user list equals chat web presence, and then get by key was the function name. And again, we do have the socket, which also has the assign. So we have the topic in there. And also in there, we have the username of the current user who owns the socket. All right. So for now, I'm just going to log out that user list to show you what it looks like. User list. And you'll see there's some information in there we don't need. In fact, there's some information in there that, well, let's say it like this. In metas, you can see that it's a list because this is where you can store information about each connection for that particular key. So let's say we did have a username list that you could always log in as Geo. Then when we looked up Geo, if I was on my phone and in two different browser windows, then Geo would have one key, but multiple of these maps inside of this list, because each one of those tracks each connection separately, which is nice. However, the fact that, well, you know what? This isn't the function we need now that I'm thinking about it, because this is getting a specific user. We don't need to get the specific user. We could do something like, you know how Slack has like a Geo is writing type thing? Like we could track that information in those metas if we wanted to. We're not going to do that in this stream. We're already like an hour and 45 minutes into the stream. So I'm not going to do that today, but we could. Instead, let's do this list. This is the one we wanted, list. This returns presences for a socket topic. And it includes all the keys and in those, the metas. So not get by key, Geo. Let's just do list, and the list takes in the socket or the topic. In this case, we need to put in the topic. So socket dot assigns topic. All right, so that should be our user list. Now let's go and look at that. Yeah, so we have $ritual, and then since the other page reloaded as well, we also have Riviera shrink. And really, the keys, each of those keys represents a user. So we can say, we can just pull out the keys and have that be our user list. So let's just pipe that directly into map.keys, and that's our user list. And so we'll also assign that. So we have our messages being assigned. Let's also assign a user list, and that will be user list. And if we save this, that'll now be in the assigns once someone joins and or leaves. However, we're not displaying that over here when we need to display it. So we can say for user in the user list do, and again, let's just put it in a p tag and say user, and the user is going to be a string because it's that key, and so we don't need to do anything special to it. Ooh, bad formatting. Okay, save that. Now it'll crash on us the first time because we haven't set it up on mount to track that user list. So let's go back up here and say user list is not going to be here. User list is going to start out as an empty array. Sorry, empty list. I've been working in JavaScript too much today. All right, now we have our online users. Let me go back in that CSS before we look at it too much, because I also want to do this to the user list. User list div. Yeah, cool. All right, so now we can join more users. Let's say localhost 4000 Phoenix in action. Just copy this so we can put it in. So now we have 3 users. Let's add another. So now we should have 4 users. Yeah, so everyone's getting updates and leaves and joins. Hi, everybody. So Quiet Oberon is the first one to speak up. And then over here, Pancake Mirage, says hi back. Hi back. And every one of the browser windows gets it as soon as it happens, which is pretty cool. So then, Quiet Oberon leaves, so everyone gets the message that he left, and our users online list automatically updates to show that he's gone, and then we can, leave. Pancake Mirage can head as well. So we're just left with Screen Melody and Enigma Guest, just us two again. And then Screen Melody says, "Yeah, but I like you." All right. That, in an hour and 45 minutes, is building a real-time chat application with Phoenix live view. And again, I am looking at the chat. If you have any questions or comments, please put it in there, because I am going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining me. This was it's always interesting to do stuff live, because you always encounter error messages that you haven't before. It's always a treat to see what comes up. But again, if you go to phoenixinaction.com, phoenixinaction.com, it'll take you directly to Manning's site for the Phoenix in Action book. That's the book I wrote about Phoenix. This book came out a couple years ago, and it does not cover live view. However, there are some huge things you need to know before you get into live view that this book does cover. Live view itself came out about 2 months after this book was published, and it could take up its own book. And I have been thinking about maybe doing like some sort of supplements or appendix or something like that that covers live view a little bit, but live view is its own topic. However, if you're new to Elixir or new to Phoenix, then this book should get you up to speed to where you can jump into live view very easily. Yeah, I hope you buy it. And also, if you don't know any Elixir at all, it provides a pretty thorough overview of the Elixir programming language, enough to get going. I do see some questions here in the chat. The first is Phoenix something you would use by itself, or is it primarily for the real-time socket parts? No, it's definitely something that you can use by itself. I do know that there are plenty of websites that are served by Phoenix that aren't really using the live view stuff at all. I'll show you one thing that I created. It actually does use sockets, but if you're struggling with regex and how regular expressions work in Phoenix, then this is something you can use. This was actually created for a competition when live view was first announced, to basically explore live view and how you can use it. But like first here, you can put in your input here. So is Phoenix something you would use by itself? Let's just say it like that. And then you can start putting your pattern here. So let's say you wanted to match out Phoenix and itself. Let's see if we can do that. So, as you type, not only does there was the function call that you need in order to copy and paste this world of the regex into your own application code, but it also has like the results and the matches, which I think is pretty cool. So in between Phoenix and then itself. So it does match that, but then we can pull those parts out. So it has real-time error handling as well. So our first match is Phoenix, and then the next thing we wanted to match was itself. So we see the match 1 is Phoenix, match 2 is itself. So there's things you can do in live view that are really cool. And you also see that, the URL itself is being updated in real time, which is pretty cool, I think. So I can copy and paste this, and you can go there, you can see that exact same URL or the exact same the thing from just copy and pasting it to someone saying, hey, I found this regex to work for your situation. Try that out. Anyway, that's an answer to the question of, do you have to use live view or the real-time capabilities? You don't. And I will say, let me show you Phoenix. Let's just load the page, and the page loads. When I first loaded the page here, it sent 200, so it sent a good response in 4 milliseconds, and it connected to the socket in 55 microseconds. Phoenix is, since it's compiled, it is insanely fast. So one of the things that Phoenix brags about is that it can handle so many simultaneous connections at one time. So if we go to I think it's in channels, it talks about the capabilities. Phoenix channel. Now let's try in the guide for channels. Yeah, so this just talks about how channels works and some information about it. But then this I love this paragraph. This architecture scales well. Phoenix channels can support millions of subscribers with reasonable latency on a single box, passing hundreds of thousands of messages per second. And that capacity can be multiplied by adding more nodes to the cluster. One thing that I didn't even go over in this particular thing in our chat application is that it has the ability to do navigation live as well. So there's some functions that you can use to handle navigation through the sockets, which means that when you navigate from one page to the other, if you think about normal servers, they basically have amnesia. Like they forget everything about you the moment you click the next link. That means you've got to send them your session information, and they've got to revalidate that you are able to see the page, check your permissions, and then re-render like every piece of HTML that's on your page, including this Phoenix in Action chat header that never changes, or the whole JavaScript bundle that hasn't changed either. And so hopefully there's things that they do to cache that information. But still, that's a lot of information to send on everything. But if you go through live navigation, all that is updated with very small changes, which is pretty cool. Another little side project that I've done that right now has a couple errors show up, but I'm gonna show you anyway. Is oh dang, I forgot the name of it. That tells you how long it's been since I've looked at it. Is it Flightcharts Io. So I'm a pilot, but I also do a lot of sim flying. And I wanted an easy way to search for airports and find flight charts for it from the FAA. And you can see that the database for the FAA database hasn't been updated since December. So the charts themselves won't work, but you could still search for airports and identifications, names, and cities. But watch how fast this automatic completion happens. So let's just say I search for San Diego. So if I search San, like all these things come up. This is live view populating this page in real time through the search. And then like as I continue to drill down, you can see that the page updates so fast. And this is, here's this and Elixir regex and probably 4 other side projects are all hosted on the smallest DigitalOcean droplet that you can get, each in their own Docker container. And while they aren't, they're not huge, they don't get a whole lot of traffic, they still are so fast that it is very impressive to me. Anyway, I love Phoenix and what it can provide. Let me show you my website. This is not hosted with Phoenix, but this is just straight HTML. But you can see that it's been a little while since I've posted something. The book took a lot of my writing energy. But hopefully in there you can find some things that are very interesting. A lot of things are still applicable, especially in terms of Ecto and the way you can connect to databases, which I didn't cover at all today. And then also if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a playlist in here. Let's see. Wow. Playlist. Let's say as I'm logged in as me, you can see all my personal playlists, but that's okay. I have one called, where is it? Talks I've Given. There it is. So if you look at Talks I've Given, and this is linked to from a website, maybe that's how I should have gotten there. So if you go to jeffreylussell.com, and then Talks, here's some of the talks I've given over the years that you can take a look at. But in this, there's some Phoenix information in here that's pretty fun. This one is Phoenix updates through the browser. I did that. It's like a 20-minute talk. I did that at a meetup. And then I did a longer version of that just a couple weeks ago for a GoToConf. And hopefully those will be online soon. But yeah, go take a look at those if you want more information about Phoenix and Elixir and some of the fun things you can do. I like to dabble with stuff. So like I do stuff like MIDI devices and external steering wheel displays and crazy things like that with Elixir, which is really fun. So yeah, thanks CS255. I appreciate that for the question and for the response. Any other questions from anyone? I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're going to start wrapping this thing up. I don't know if it's dinner time for any of you, but it is dinner time for me. And I'm getting a little hungry. So let me put this screen back up here. Again, Twitless40. I believe that's like a combination of Twitter and Lessel. I didn't come up with the with the code. Manning did. Great code. But Twitless is kind of funny. So Twitless40 gets you 40% off at Manning. Anything at Manning. Go check it out. I'm at Twitter at geolessel.com. Not George. Geolessel. So like Chris McCord, who created Elixir, has made some cool stuff, including like a Twitter clone. Not a clone. That's kind of like a clone in live view. That is really neat. So yeah, go check out my Twitter, go check out my GitHub. I've got a lot of things like my dot files on GitHub as well, so if you want to check those out. All right, so again, you know my my Twitter account, so message me there if you want to contact me directly, and message me on YouTube if you see one of those videos and you want to get in touch with me. Let me know. I really appreciate you showing up. I do. Great way to spend a Friday afternoon / evening, and I'm glad you're here with me. Again, I'm Jeffrey Lessel, and thank you so much for joining.